All right. Okay. So our first step is complete. We have got our Google Auth client ID. So let me go back to our project. So all of this is documented in our slide. Now, if I go to our e-commerce page, and from here, I'm going to click on continue with Google, right? Sorry guys, I'm going to take a. All right. So if we go to our register page and also our login page, we have Google continue with Google button in both places and also in our drop down. So if I go to our UI and I can test from anywhere, let's go to our login page, our index, and in our login form, this is the continue with Google button, right? So as you can see, when clicking on this button, I am calling this function handle Google signing. So we are going to use this Google continue with Google from multiple places, so multiple pages. So I have created a utility function for that so that we can use it anywhere we want. And what is this function doing? Okay, so it is a very simple function. It is making a Google Auth URL, and it is redirecting the user to that Google Auth URL. So now we have to understand where we get this URL from and what are we adding to this URL as parameters, right? So how do you do that? Of course, we go to their official documentation. Okay, where is it? Okay, let's search in the Google. Let's copy this and go to Google, and you can just search Google Auth URL, and you will see a result from their official documentation, Google for Developers, using or 2.0 to access Google APIs. So if you go to their official documentation, from their left from the left side, you can create on for JavaScript web apps, because we are developing a JavaScript web application, of course. Now, if we scroll down here, it says that obtaining OAuth 2.0 access tokens, right? Redirect, first step is redirect to Google's OAuth 2.0 server, right? So we have to redirect the user to their to Google's OAuth 2.0 server. To do that, to request permission to access users data, redirect the user to Google's OAuth 2.0 user server. Generate a URL to request access from Google's OAuth 2.2 endpoints at, this is the URI, right? This is where I got it from. So we just have to get this URI first. So I already got it. Okay, so we have got the URI, right? So then it also says that the Google authorization server supports the following query string parameters for web server applications, right? So we cannot just simply make redirect our user to their Google OAuth screen server, because it will do nothing, right? The user will be confused. We have to make the user show the user the consent screen, and then the user can use Google to log in. So for that, we have a required parameter. So first of all is client ID. So no problem, we got our client ID in previously I showed you how you can get your Google ID from your Google Cloud Console. So we are getting it from our process.env. Okay, so we got our client ID. Then we have our redirect URI, right? It is also required. So we are setting, this is our redirect URI. So make sure this redirect URI matches the redirect URI you set up in your Google Cloud Console client ID, right? When creating the client ID. So let's make an intentional mistake, right? Let's say auth.google. One of my mentors used to say, man is mortal. That has nothing to do with making mistakes, but he used to say that. So man is mortal. We are going to make a intentional mistake here. And after that, we are setting up a scope. So I told you about a scope when we are setting up the client ID, right? So for a scope, we need the open ID, we need the profile and the email. So this is the scope we are setting up, saying to Google that we need this information from their Google account. Okay. All right. So let's go back there. We have a scope which is required. Okay. Now we have state. We're not going to set it up. And where is it? Oh, we have the response type, which is also required. So the response type is JavaScript application needs to set the parameters value to token. This value instructs the Google authorization server to return the access token as a name value pair. So we also have to tell our Google Open 2.0 OAuth server. So what type of response we want to get? How do we want to get the response? So it says that it default we should set it to token, right? So we are setting up to token, and we are also needing ID token. So again, if you are working with a backend developer, make sure you know what data you have to send to your backend developer. So for our API, we have to send the ID token. Okay, so that's how our backend was set up. We have to send the ID token. Doesn't matter how we get the ID token. We use any JavaScript library or we use this raw like this. We just have to get the ID token. Okay. So in our response type, we can say that we want the token and also the ID token. Okay. So then we have another variable called nonce. So nonce is a number or a data, a string, whatever that you use once, right? So you have to give it as parameters because you are asking for token ID token. So to get the ID token, you have to send a client secret, which is just a string of random numbers and characters with your API call, because the ID token you get back will contain this nonce. So where am I getting this nonce from? If I go to env.staging, okay, so okay, I don't have the nonce here. Okay, I have to set it up. Sorry. I just have to copy it and paste it in staging. Oh, I already have that. I don't know how I missed that, but okay, we have our next secret in our env file. Let's go back to our function. So nonce, we are getting it from our env file. This is just a secret or a string of random numbers and characters we have to send to get the ID token. Okay, simple. You do not have to overthink about it. So then we make the URL, right? So we send all the data as query parameters. We are sending client ID, our redirect URL, our scope, response type, and we're also sending a prompt. What is this prompt doing? We are saying that we want to prompt the user each time to select an account. That means you might have noticed that on some web applications, when you first time log in with your Google account, they ask you to choose your account if you have signed in with multiple accounts in your browser. But when you try to log in the second time, they do not ask you for their account, they just simply log you in. So I do not want to do that. If a user has multiple account, I want to give the user the option to choose an account every time. So that's what I'm setting in prompt. So where can you know this or get this? You can get it in your prompt. So everything I am showing you is available in their documentation. You just have to be patient and read the documentation. So as you can see, select user, prompt the user to select an account. Okay, great. After that, we have our Google Auth URL, and I'm just redirecting the uh, sorry, I'm just redirecting the user to that URL, right? Okay, so let's do that. Now we go to our URL and let's click on continue with Google. Okay, so we have got an error, and as you can see, we are redirected to their to their OAuth server, OAuth 2.0 server. This is the server with all the information, and we got an error that the redirect URI mismatch. Remember, we made an intentional mistake. So that's why I told you that the redirect URI you sent with your API call has to match the redirect URI you set up when getting the client ID. So let's make it to the page URL. Now, if we go back, now let's click on continue with Google. Okay, now we have the consent screen. They are asking, prompting me to choose an account. I'm going to choose my account, and you can see it says that sign into video share. It should say your project name, but I am not using the same client I showed you earlier. So I think it was set up as video share, the project name. That's why it is saying video share. So if you set up the logo will be also shown here. So after that, if I click on continue, okay, now you can see that I am successfully logged in. Okay, so I did not want to do that on first go. Okay, let me go to the store provider. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Let's log out. Okay, let's try again. So if I continue with Google, they are prompting me again. Okay, after I click on, so as you can see, notice that we are redirected to the redirect URL, but we have some additional data with it as query parameters, right? So now if we go to our home page, that the redirect page we set up, we can go to the redirect page and we can get all this data from our parameters, and of course we'll get the ID parameters, right? So let me just copy this. Okay, if we go to handle Google sign-in, if I paste it here, what do we need from here? We need the ID token, right? You can see this is there is the ID token we got. See, we got the ID token as our hash URL or URL hash. And okay, now let's go to our store provider. You can handle it from anywhere in your global page. In any other page, if you want to create a separate page for your Google authentication, you can do that. Just redirect the user to the home page or their profile page after the authentication is complete, or if it gets an error. I'm just going to handle it in our store provider. Okay, so what is this doing? So we can in our useAwait function, we can get the hash. We can say window.location.hash. This will get everything in our, okay, I have to comment it out again. All right. Okay, let's try login again. Continue. Okay, now we have got our URL, right? So what window we can get the hash window.location.hash, and we will get everything after or including the hash, right? So we will get everything from window.location.hash. So after we got that, we have to handle the URL, right? We got everything from Google as query parameters from the URL. So we can just simply use regex, but you know how hard it is to create a regex, custom regex, or how hard it is to learn regex. So to handle query parameters, JavaScript actually gives us a class called use search params. So what use search param does, it makes it easier for us to handle params in our query or any kind of string. So as you can see in your search param, if you give name equals to John and age equals to 30, you will actually get an object. So then you can just say params dot get. If you want to get the age, let's say I want to get the age. Okay, so if I come here and reload again, as you can see, I got the age as 30. All right, okay. So let's delete all of this. Okay. So from here, I can say I want to get the ID token, right? So I can just say param.get.id token. You can get it with regex if you want to, but I'm just going to use the URL source parameters because it is easier to handle. And if I get the ID token, right? If I get the ID token, I can send the ID token to my backend, right? Axios.post and user.login. Then I am saying sending the ID token to the backend. So now the backend will use other Google services or any other package to verify this ID token with the same API, Google API that we used. So after the token is complete, the backend will handle all the functionalities, how to add the user to database. And if everything is successful, it will the backend will send us response. And with the response, it is the same thing with Google login. They will set us the token as response.data.token. We will set up the token in our cookies, send a notification that the login was successful, and we will also going to call the verify function, which will verify our user and set the is authenticated state to true. After that, we push the user to our home page. So after that, everything, these functions we have repeated it maybe 2 or 3 places. It is the same thing, setting up the cookie, sending a notification, and verifying the user. Okay, after each login. So if you get catch any error, you just send the user to the register page. Okay, so it's up to you how you handle the error. So this is how you can implement your Google sign in. So we also have this logout button. So let's see how you can log out also. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.